Welcome to Focus on the Fun Stuff, the podcast for business owners who want to build a business that they actually love. I'm your host, Emma Mills, seven-figure founder of MyPA, the UK's leading virtual PA support agency. And since 2008, MyPA has helped thousands of business owners to buy back their time, get out of the weeds, and focus on what matters most. And every week on the podcast, I'm sharing my own journey live as it happens and interviewing other business owners who've been exactly where you are now. And we're sharing practical tactics and real strategies to help you build a business that works for you, not the other way around. Martin Huntbach, welcome to Focus on the Fun Stuff.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. You are the co-founder of Jammy Digital with your wife, Lindsay. You're also co-founder of Vidonary. We're going to talk about both these amazing businesses. You've also, I think, not now, but have been the CMO of ScoreApp as well,
right, yeah.
Another of Daniel Priestley's companies. But over all of that, I mean, you're a client of MyPA's as well, which we've had a relationship now for about maybe 4 or 5 years. But now, Martin, now I know you as the man that has made Daniel Priestley famous.
Oh, well, I don't know about that. Maybe pushed him in the right direction.
You've certainly had I think a massive push from you. And I want to unpack that. And I'm sure everybody wants to know how you've done this. I mean, Daniel's awesome, but also what you've kind of orchestrated around him with his content has definitely lit a fire under it, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And it led him to massive opportunities. It's got him onto DOAC, Diver CEO, and all sorts. But before we get into all of that, I just want to take it back a few years. 2015, I think, was it when you started Jammy Digital?
Yeah, it was.
So, agency owner. I am, in effect, a little bit like an agency owner with my business, and I know that can have challenges. Can we talk a little bit about why you started Jammy and that kind of growth up to, let's say, 2022?
Of course, yeah. So, as you mentioned, I started Jammy in 2015 with my wife, Lindsay, and we'd done little bits of marketing for our local businesses near where we lived. But this was our first proper agency where we were able to go out to lots of people across, the country. We'd meet people at events. People would ask us about how to grow their business and online marketing. And it was a lot broader then than it is today. But general marketing, so things like websites, bits of graphic design, whatever we could do to help people shine online would be what we do. Lindsay often jokes about the fact that we probably would have taken your bins out if you'd have paid us.
I can sympathise with that massively. I think we've all said yes too many times.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was a natural progression for us to niche down a bit by bit, and we eventually stumbled across long form content. So that meant like long form blog posts, long form videos, because it tended to be the thing that you could do the most and then repurpose and to learn from. And people generally need a little bit more comfort in making a buying decision. And I think if there's long form content out there, like long form blog posts, long form podcasts, long form videos, it's easier to build trust.
Yeah.
So if you do get a few views, at least you're building trust with those people.
Yeah. So, and the Jammy, like itself, in terms of like operating the business, because Focus on the Fun Stuff is all about unpacking how people have grown businesses that they enjoy and love. So I did read a couple of posts the other day from you where you talked about kind of in the early days, like you just said, that you were kind of doing everything for everyone, saying yes too much, feeling like you had to say yes or the relationship with the client might be at threat. And I totally sympathize with that as well. Yeah. Like, how did you start to transition Jammy into something that was more maybe like scalable, product based, like less dependent on, or you just feeling more confident to go, no, this is what we do?
Yeah. I think in general, a lot of it comes from my absolute obsession with learning, because when you listen to people like Daniel Priestley's of the world and you look at people that have built successful businesses, when you try to take action, a lot of it comes back to, okay, focus on one thing, build demand for that one thing. It's a lot more difficult for you to actually take action on what successful business owners say if your business looks, like you'll do anything for anyone at any amount of money. So you naturally, when I say this to my little boy all the time, the more you learn, the more you earn. And I remember the moment that I picked up my first book or attended my first event, and I've never once heard anybody say, oh yeah, just do what people ask for and charge them money and hope for the best. So it's all come off the back of me deeply interested in the the business world. So listening to people like Daniel talk about, the way that you pitch your product, the way that you package up your offer, it's all led me to this point, really. And I think it's a collection of books and talks and podcast interviews that I've listened to where it's like, okay, we're at the point now, even before working with Daniel, where we had one particular service, one particular offer. We had a certain amount of people that could buy it. We just eventually got there from testing and learning and putting out content ourselves as well. So I think eventually you'll get there. It's just a case of it taking too long if, you haven't got somebody to actually say, here's how to do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, totally get that. And so you credit Oversubscribed, the book, with having a big impact on your business.
Yeah, 100%. I think the fact with Oversubscribed is it is about a specific offer, and it is a specific way to attract people. And it's just so difficult if you have a jumbled group of products. So yeah, the first time we ever implemented Oversubscribed was a blog writing package that we used to implement. So we did blogging for people, we did social media, we did graphic design and web design, but it was only when we went out to the market and said, we're launching this offer, there's a limited number of spaces available, it's a certain amount of money, because it has to be, and the demand is there. And lo and behold, we launched it and we sold out within the first 7 days. So it's not like we couldn't have done that anyway. It's just the fact that when we committed to offering one product, one service at one price point, that it was easy for people to digest and easy for people to see, okay, that I know what I'm going to get every month.
Yeah.
And we've just taken that and applied that same principle every time we've done a big launch, and it works a charm.
So you're growing this business, you're consuming a lot of Daniel's stuff. Did you actually do Keepers of Influence or a course?
No, I've never actually done it at all. I'm a part of it now, and I've got access to everything, but never actually implemented it.
Okay, so you're learning lots, you're growing Jammy Digital, you're making it more streamlined, productized, oversubscribed. You want to consume more from Daniel. And because I think the story that I want you to kind of tell here, I think is just the biggest story for anybody that's kind of sat waiting for things to happen. I think it's really awesome, Martin. So just tell us what happened there.
Yeah, so after you've consumed a number of books, the natural next step is to go and search for them. What else can I consume? Wake up in the morning, I'm having a coffee, I want to watch a video, or I want to listen to a podcast interview. But there wasn't an awful lot out there other than a few presentations he'd done on stage, and I really wanted to delve deeper. So it was in 2022 where I reached out to him, and I actually sent him a video, and I said, I love your books. I've written my own book based on, your teachings.
Yeah.
Where's the rest of your content? Like, it's you talk about demand. There was definitely demand there for Daniel's content, but it wasn't there. And when I looked at his videos, they were getting like 200 views, and it was Daniel Priestley, and I was like, okay, well, there's a gap here. So I sent him a video, and I said, I love your content, but I feel like we could do a better job. Would you mind if I reviewed your content and sent you some quick wins as to what we've been able to implement for other clients and what you can do too? So he said, okay, well, let's have a chat. And we jumped on a call, and he ended up, getting us to create some content for his businesses, bit ScoreApp, bit for Dent, and the other businesses. But ultimately, it's just grown from there. So we're talking about a relationship now where we ended up starting a business together all off the back of me sending a video to him. So it's remarkable, really. So
you feel like it's also sounds very simple what you've just said, but it is quite incredible what you've achieved for Daniel, because he's gone from a couple hundred views to millions of views now. And I know there's been other elements now, being on big podcasts, that have kind of really put fuel behind that. But even before he got on Diary of a CEO, it was starting to fly, his content, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, I'm sure this is be a masterclass in itself, but I think just if there's anybody, I think there's people listening to this now that are going, and I'm one of them, I need to create content. At my PA, we just employed a full-time video content creator in January, because we know it's so key now. There's a lot of content being pumped out. People need to differentiate themselves. You need to tell your story. I think a lot of business owners are thinking, okay, I know I need to do it, but, well, either I don't have someone full-time, I've got rubbish kit, what platform do I start on? So, how... taking the Daniel and out a case study to start, how did you even just start that with him?
So there's two things. The first thing is have a video first approach. because when we were writing blog content for people, if we did want to turn that into a video, they'd still have to sit down and record a video. So we've written the blog post, which we can repurpose into lots of other pieces of content, but it's only when we sat in front of him with a video camera or went back through his video archive that we were then being a little bit more efficient. So to a point now where we're putting out over 100 pieces of content on his profiles every single week. That's all
100 a week.
100 a week, absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
And that took us to a point where we now are able to create that predictable lead generation, predictable revenue, predictable webinar registrations. So we know that we've got a map, and that's all because we spend at least one day with him per month filming content. It just makes it far easier for us to repurpose. If someone can get in front of the camera for a few hours, we can give them some content ideas that's built off their IP, their stories, their experience. As long as you are prepared to commit at least one day a month, you can follow along the same path. And the funny thing is that we didn't have a day a month with him to begin with. I went back through his Wistia folder and collected archives of him presenting webinars. Now, I don't know if you've ever done it before, but when you're trying to go back to find nuggets of wisdom in a webinar where he's not even looking at the camera, he's talking to the people on a web class, and he's answering questions. The very first thing that we did was we went back through his content to see if there was anything that we could maybe clip and repurpose and turn into text-based posts and blog posts. So that's how we started.
Right. So it wasn't even like filming in brand new.
It wasn't even
taking
filming.
What was already out there and doing
Exactly, which was what we always say to people. If you're struggling to get started, just forget about quality. Put out crappy content. And I don't mean crappy in the sense that the value is crappy or what you're saying is crappy. The quality is allowed to be crappy. We've all seen videos go viral where it looks like someone's like filming in the back of a cab and they say they've said something valuable or funny, and it goes viral. And that's not because of the quality was perfectly placed. It's not because the camera was the best quality. It's because in the moment you had to share some value. And quite often when I was reviewing that old video footage, Daniel was sharing just pure value all the way through. So I'd take 4-minute chunks from that section. And if he's talking about how to grow the business in a different way, I'd take the 6 minutes from that. And we kept a predictable rhythm. And I'll come on to that in a moment. But being prepared to do the video first makes everything else easier. And that's the point I really want to make, which is get in front of the camera or look back through your footage and you'll be able to create tons of extra content as long as you're prepared to do the video first. So that was the first thing. Thankfully, he did have video content like a lot of people do. You just don't pull it out. You don't distribute it because you think it needs to be polished. It doesn't. The value just has to be there. So that was the first thing. It was only when we started to get some results where it was like, okay, maybe we should book a studio, maybe we should get out and see each other.
I love that. Well, if it beats perfect.
Exactly. And that's absolutely the case. A lot of people don't have that footage, but you still want to hold on to the message, which is quantity comes before quality.
Yeah.
And that's the really important thing. Even though it is Daniel Priestley, and even though he had a strong brand and lots of books, people were still happy to get his content in whatever form they could. It just wasn't being published. So the way that we did it with Daniel specifically, and the way we went from 5,000 views to 5 million views per month was based on 3 R's. So it's really easy to remember. And that is the idea of reps. So reps is the volume. We just discussed that. We were happy to get that content out in whatever form we could because we wanted to get the reps done. It's like if you go into the gym, not that I spend much time at the gym, but you've got to get your reps in. We all know that. If you want to get better at painting, you've got to paint more pictures. If you want to get better at sharing your ideas and be more confident on camera, you've got to get your reps in. So that was the first thing that we did. And thankfully, we put out a lot of content. We wanted to see what worked, what messages people would resonate with. Mm-hmm. When you've put out lots of episodes, some of them will pop off and you didn't expect them to.
Yeah.
And that's because you've put in enough work and you've put out enough content and you've put in the reps.
Yeah. And is there just on the reps, is there a number here? So like we've got, I don't know, a physiotherapist listen to this now and they're on their own and they're like, I want to put stuff out. Is there like a number of reps where you're like, that should be really the minimum, like once a day, once a week? What?
Well, it depends on the goal. So inside of our community, we run 30-day challenges. So we try to get people to submit content once a day for 30 days. And if you can get past that, there's going to be a lot of benefits. It might not be that my views have gone from 5,000 views to 5 million, but there's going to be the confidence on camera. There's going to be how you communicate. There's going to be the fact that you can take a video recording from an hour down to 15 minutes, which happens all the time. So giving yourself...
Because people get better at speaking.
They get better, they get more confident, they start to see, they start to get some data back that it's working, and they're getting signals for it. You're only ever going to get there through reps, not through perfection.
I love that.
The next thing that we implemented is rhythm. So rather than just publish videos anytime we felt like it or when it was ready, we created a weekly rhythm that was able to guarantee that we were going to get results. So the first thing that we did is we announced to the email list that they were going to receive one video a week on a Sunday every single week. And that happened. That's happened for years. And we put it out on YouTube at 9:15 on a Sunday morning. And that was the initial rhythm. It was that weekly rhythm, one long form video. And I say long form being a 4-minute chunk from a Wistia file or a 12-minute chunk.
Oh, right.
So we were
these
just...
are still quite short videos.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they don't have to be long. When I say long form videos, I don't mean like a 90-minute podcast. I'm just talking longer than a 1-minute reel or a 1-minute short. I think it's one key idea, one key takeaway. You know, maybe it's a 3-step process.
Yeah.
But it's done within 10 minutes, ideally. And that way people could consume your content. People generally will go and consume your content before buying from you. So you may as well package it up and talk about the things that you're going to talk about when you're working with them. And like I said, he was already publishing that content. But for anybody just starting out, getting the reps in is the process you need to follow in order to get comfortable on camera, to be in the moment, to actually share what's on your mind, what's happened this week in a conversation. Being able to just set up a camera and record for 5 or 10 minutes is great, but it's the weekly commitment that you have to your audience that comes with the rhythm. So what am I going to put out every week or multiple times a week or every month? As long as you can commit to sticking to that rhythm, like we did at 9:15 every Sunday. They'd get an email and it was a link to a YouTube video. We were able to let the audience know that we were committed to delivering that message. It's not random. It's not when we felt like it. And it was only when you combine those two things, the reps and the rhythm, that we were able to really see the results fly. Now, when I say results, the greatest results that we got weren't the views, although that was fantastic. I care, and Daniel cares more about leads and sales and having the business, you know, fund itself.
Yeah.
So if Daniel spends a day a month doing videos these days, now he's seen that it works, what does that actually lead to in terms of business?
I get that.
And we were so methodical that it got to a point when we did enough reps and we stuck to a rhythm, we were able to guarantee that there was a certain number of leads that came in every single week, every single month. Absolutely. Because you're training people to know you, like you, trust you. You're training them that you're committed to them. You're showing up week in and week out. And whatever happens, regardless of how many views that you get, the best thing in the world is that it's so easy to sell to people that have consumed content from you. They don't challenge you. They don't say, what makes you qualified to be my coach or my agency? Because you've already qualified them. So it got to a point, I remember speaking to one of the sales team at Dent, and he said, you know, it's funny, even though we initially didn't see any results from the content, and you just say, well, we're still doing sales calls, the sales calls changed in a sense. It felt like the clients and the prospects were trying to convince the sales team to work with them. So it went from us selling to them selling to us. So now it's a case of it feeling a little bit more elite and pre-qualified. Like you really have the ability to pre-qualify and pick and cherry pick who you work with because you've laid the foundations of commitment to your audience. You're putting out the content, you're sharing the value, people are resonating. Who else are they going to work with? How many other content creators are that committed to the process of sharing their value and sharing their wisdom and experience? And that's why when you do the reps and then you add the rhythm, it really does a lot of the heavy lifting from a sales point of view.
This sounds amazing, Martin. So I've got a couple of questions out of that. So you said that you started with the YouTube platform as the place where, well, I guess you were sending the list to that. So I feel like there's a lot of chat nowadays of where do your customers live? I've got some friends who are from Key Person of Influence, and one of them is going all in on LinkedIn and only post there. One of them's going all in on Instagram and only post there. What would you say to that? Do you need to find the place where your customers live, or do you need to just do a good video on YouTube once a week and then cut that up and put all the stuff everywhere else? Do you know, to someone that's thinking, because I think it is quite overwhelming for people now. There's so many platforms. How do I know really which one's best for me? How do I articulate my way through that decision?
100%. And that leads us to the third R perfectly, which is repurposing.
Nice.
So reps, rhythm, repurposing. And when we first started, we just had that one video that went out on a Sunday. Part of the reason was because we wanted to make sure that the messages resonated, we were able to see what worked and what didn't. Then we were able to have constant feedback about what works. Once we did that, we'd had a lot of videos. We were then able to dissect the transcriptions from those videos. We were able to look at, what he said in the middle of the video that resonated. What do the comments look like? What's happening in the chatter about those videos that would make for good other pieces of content? So then what we did is we clipped up those moments from those 5-10 minute videos and we turned them into shorts. So rather than just posting on a Sunday on YouTube, we'd post on a Thursday, a 1 minute clip from that initial video on the Thursday. And that's how it started. And then we left it a few weeks, see how that landed. The important thing is that from that short form video, you're able to link to the previous long form video. And every week when we publish the long form, we'd get the natural traffic and we'd email the database. But then you post another video on YouTube and you're able to link back to the long form video. Now, the difference is that long form videos, you're able to include a link to your call to action. Yeah. So whatever you're trying to promote, you can do that in the video. And we'd include a link right at the top of the description. It said, if you want to find out how to grow your personal brand, join my upcoming web class. And in every single video, it was the same. But long form videos or 10-minute videos or mid-form videos don't get as many views as shorts. So we were able to post a short and then hyperlink back to the long. They'd feel like they know him a little bit more, and then they were able to click the link in the description. So then all we did is ramped up the volume. So when we saw that working consistently and we saw the leads coming in, we then added a Tuesday short and a Friday short. And then all the time they were funneling people through to the long form videos, because with long form comes connection. Typically what happens is with short form content, it's great for attention, it's great for getting the views, but it's the long form that does the trust building and the education, and it really helps people buy into you. There's just so many shorts online. It's usually not enough to get someone to buy from you off the back of a 30-second clip, but it is enough to pique people's interest and to get them to watch longer videos of yourself. That's where the lead generation comes in, because you're really able to guide people to take the next step once they've seen your long form. So we kind of use short form as the pouring the fuel on the fire for the long form. So once we'd done that and we'd added a few more days, then we started to add a few more platforms. Now every platform's slightly different, but because we had one big goal, which is more leads and more sales, we created a process that was like a tap. So anytime we just needed more leads and sales, we'd just turn it up a notch, or turn that tap. So we then looked at LinkedIn. So for Daniel, his coaches, businesses, maybe they earn a little bit more money than other coaches and consultants charge. So LinkedIn was the next logical place to be. So we were able to then take those short form videos and those long form videos and post on LinkedIn, and at the same time add a call to action. So we're constantly thinking about, okay, we can put content on this platform, but what does it actually help us do, and how are people going to get there? So posting on LinkedIn, to this point, we post over 7 times a week on Daniel's profiles.
On LinkedIn,
on LinkedIn alone.
On LinkedIn, okay.
Because it allows you to include links and you can get people to do the next step. Nothing's born out of creativity. It's all based on process. And that's the thing that I want people to understand. Yeah. So when it comes to Instagram, there has to be a way for us to imagine how that's going to link to business. So there needs to be a process for that. But everything's born out of that long form video, or that key message, because we're able to turn it into a reel. We're able to turn that into a carousel. That's where the repurposing comes in. So every single person who's listening to this right now, they have their own business goals. The one common element that I think most people can do globally, and very few things you can say, this is the way that you should do it because your business is different. But if you say the thing on video first, you can make the plan later. You can repurpose it to an image. You can repurpose it to a tweet. You can repurpose it to a carousel. If you're prepared to educate and inform and put out enough videos, it makes everything else easy. So even if your business is a dental clinic, like, okay, if I put the video out first, my path to repurposing might be slightly different from a business coach or a agency. But if you get the words out on video first, you can transcribe them, you can repurpose them, you can still use that video across all these other platforms, but there has to be a vision and a goal beyond more views. This is the one thing that we found. And that's why I think we've grown, and that's why I think that a lot of people have come out, is because we've focused on, okay, how can we put out content that turns people into a lead and turns people into a sale? And as a byproduct, you're going to put out the best content. It just so doesn't always have to be the most viral content, the funniest content. It just has to be what can we put out that will make people more equipped to make a decision to buy from us. And if you have your customers and clients and the success of that in mind, you will come up with the best video content and the best ideas. So everything changes depending on what kind of business you've got on the repurposing level. As long as you put out the reps and you create a normal rhythm, you can then tweak and change things. And maybe you want to use ManyChat, maybe you want to use Instagram stories or TikTok. All of that is born from the big vision and the big goal. And that's the one thing that Daniel's always preached, which is every quarter you need that big goal. You need that spotlight campaign that you're going to drive people to.
Yeah.
So it's not about views and going viral. It's about understanding what your goals are as a business, how you can benchmark success, and then using video as the way to do that.
Oh my God, this is brilliant. So, because this is like, it feels simple to me now in that it's this one really valuable video that everything else spins off from on a weekly basis. And one of my questions was going to be, although you might have answered it, but just I feel like my modus operandi in creating content has always been to give value.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've almost gone too far the other way and never actually asked as well.
Yeah.
So how do you think a business owner navigates that? Is it about keeping any kind of ask out of the video and just having it in and around the post? Or were Daniel's weekly videos, did they always also lead towards, if you want to help, you can jump on this webinar, download the scorecard? How do you approach like the selling in something that's giving value?
Well, I think the thing is remembering what I've just said, which is if you imagine someone buying from you, and think to yourself, what kind of content would I have put out in order to make that happen? It's coming from a place of, I want to put out the best content. These people are only going to buy from me if they consume good content. So there are a few different ways for you to go about planning content that can help. And these are the 4 T's. So when it comes to planning content, it's really straightforward if you don't know where to start, regardless of what the big goal is. If your goal is to just be consistent and get your reps in, then okay, let's just get you off the starting block. So the first T is talking. So talking to your customers, talking to people over email, talking to people on a workshop. And the success of Daniel's channels was obviously based on talking, because the original content was him talking to people on a workshop and I was just clipping it. So it was naturally happening. But you, as a business owner, will naturally talk to people day in and day out.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so effective, because they're telling you what they want to know and they're telling you in the words that they speak. So rather than you think, oh, I really want to create a video today, let me think of a really good concept, just look through your emails. Speak to your PA, speak to your team, and find out what are the most common things are that people are asking on a regular basis. The best content we've ever created that's continuously delivered leads and sales has been the content that I got sick of people asking me over emails and over the phone. Originally, the first time I discovered this was an article that we wrote, which is why we're not ranking in Google and how to fix it, because everybody would always phone up and say, oh, I paid this other agency and we're not ranking in Google, I'm not sure what to do. So eventually, after so many people asked this question, we just said, okay, we'll just put together a really valuable long form piece of content. And that's what we did. And then every time someone asked the question, we were like, here you go, read this. And then that delivered so much in terms of revenue because we were the ones prepared to answer that question. So there's gold within your inbox. There's gold within the voice notes and things that clients have sent. There really, really is. So that's a really great place to start.
So good. One thing I've started doing only recently, but it might be helpful. The one thing that AI has been really helpful for in our business is when we have discovery calls, generally on a video Teams call, Fireflies is plugged into it, the whole transcript's there. And I've been pulling out the transcripts that Helen or Lucy have been having with clients and then kind of chucking into Claude, right? Here's like the last week's discovery calls, what questions were asked, what weren't they clear on, like what are their pains and problems, and then that's kind of pulled out, like a really good starting point for me to start ideating some videos. I think, I'll talk about that this week. That's been really helpful.
Absolutely. And one of the more controversial ways to get content ideas is actually taking ideas from other people.
I love that.
Now, I don't mean stealing. I mean, people like Alex Hormozi, for instance, who's creating content a lot. He didn't initially come up with the concept for that video that time. He might have taken it from somebody else in a slightly different niche. But when you understand that these people are taking concepts and packaging away from other people, they're just applying their spin on it, it becomes a lot easier. It really does. So if you're planning content and you've been following people that are in a similar niche, you could look at their titles, look at their thumbnails, look at how they framed the content, and imagine how that would work for you.
Yeah.
It's common. Nobody ever complains about it, providing you don't rip the content off and steal it word for word. But the framing of that piece of content quite often is what makes it successful. Quite often you'll see the same styles come up time and time again. And now I've said this, hopefully most people will as well. So you can bookmark these things, you can screenshot them. One of the things that content creators do at the minute is they have a title and a thumbnail on their YouTube videos and it says, I've only got 58 seconds. And then they have a 58-second video where they just share it. Or someone might say, I've only got 90 seconds. And all you do is you just see what they're doing and you watch the videos and you're like, right, great, I know what I would do if that's my only point of reference. So taking inspiration is the second T. Now, the third T is techniques. And this is where what Daniel does quite a lot and what I do is I like to come up with frameworks. I like to come up with systems and processes. And because the second that somebody comes with a question over email and they say, okay, how can I come up with content ideas? Because I'm struggling and enough people ask. I'm thinking I need a framework for that. So I'm going to come up with the 4 T's, which is the 4 ways that you can come up with content if you don't know what to say. And that's exactly how I'm providing content now. I'm talking about the process and the frameworks.
Yeah.
So in every business, there are processes, there's step-by-step plays, there's systems. You might have some strategy wheel that you always use with your clients. Just remember that when you're presenting the content and you're presenting the framework, it's not all about the framework. It's about the problems that people face. And the framework is the vehicle in order to help them solve the problems. So let's not get caught up in our IP and say, oh, I've got this framework and this framework. Just understand what the big problem is. I struggle to come up with content ideas. Great. This system that I use with my clients is the best way for you to come up with content ideas and never have to worry about it again. I call it the 4 T's, and then you can break it down, and it's the perfect 4-step video structure that you can apply to all of the other frameworks you've got in your business. It really is a fantastic way.
Yeah, and I will just add it for anybody that's thinking now, but I don't have a system, Martin. I don't have a framework. You do, don't you? Like if you are selling or helping a client in any particular way, there will be something that you go through every single time, or the same things you say, or the same questions you ask. And whilst, gosh, the amount of times I mentioned Daniel in this episode, but like you stood on a mountain of value, the amount of times you'll say something and it's normal to you, but to other people, they're like, oh, right, like they don't know. And that is what you're talking about. That is a model, that is a framework. And I will just say AI has been really helpful for me as well. If I've kind of thought, oh, I do take people through this, and I've kind of like articulated it, AI has been quite helpful in coming up with ideas of just what that framework could be called.
Exactly.
Do you know, like the
Absolutely.
initials? Because sometimes you're like, I can't make something out of that, or it can be very good in just like helping you go, well, this is my new pause framework or win framework, or it's good at helping you pull it together.
Yeah, and it gives you a certain confidence when you have your own frameworks, and people think, oh, well, you clearly have a process and some structure. Even though you do, it's the same way that you want to communicate clearly that and talk about it a lot, which is this is the system, this is the framework. And the more you repeat it, the more that you have confidence, and the more that that comes across whenever you're having sales calls and you're creating content as well.
Yeah.
So that fourth T is testing.
Okay.
So testing content that you're not sure might work, it might not. And that's simply from having what we call a content dumping ground. So a content dumping ground, usually people have this private. We recommend having it public. So that might be that you use that platform that's not your main platform, like Twitter. You can be testing messages. You can be testing conversations. You can be just dumping content consistently enough for you to get validation as to which content performs better. Alex Hormozy does this. We already mentioned him, where he'll have Twitter and he'll tweet thoughts based on conversations he's had to see if it works. Maybe you're not sure if that conversation with that person is going to make for a great piece of content. Put it out on your content dumping ground. It's a remarkable way for you to get validation, get comments, get engagement, and think, oh, maybe we will do a long form video. So you become a little bit more strategic, and you've got a collection of insights and data points to know when we do want to record videos. Yes, okay, I can go off my email inbox, but it's good if you've got that little bit of grey area where you can dump some of those conversations and get some insights back.
That's a great idea. What would you say to somebody that's posting and they think that they're posting, well, with rhythm, they're posting repeatably, and I don't know, it's been 1 to 2 months and they're like, there isn't a lot happening and it's quiet, and as they say in social media land, there's crickets going past. Like for a lot of people, it's certainly hard to get through that part of the journey, isn't it? Because I think it happens to almost everyone. Because some people might be listening to this going, okay, I get it on Daniel Priestley, but he had also written 4 or 5 books. He had a legion of raving fans for sure so there was like something to go, you know, like if somebody's starting, what would you say to that? Is there so long you'd give it, just consistently keep going, testing? How would you help someone with
I think
that?
We have to sometimes think about this from a viewer's point of view. Now, from a viewer's point of view, if you know your business very, very well, sometimes you struggle with what we call the expert trap. And the expert trap implies that because you are an expert in your niche, because you have a wealth of knowledge and experience, that sometimes when you get on camera and you just say, I'm just going to hit record and share value, you present it in a complex way because you have a complex understanding. Now, there's plenty of people in your niche that will also be putting out video content and getting tons of views. Quite often it's because they might have a more simple understanding, they might be newer, but they can explain it in a simple way. So when you are an expert, and we see this all the time, you know, we have a client who's in her 70s and she puts out a lot of content and has done for a long time. The problem is that when it's explained with all of that weight and that knowledge. So there's a problem there. There's a problem where we have to start considering what people want to consume, not what we want to say.
Right.
So we like to guide our clients, we like to guide our members with on-ramps. So on-ramps for conversations, or what we call conversational hooks. So as an example, if you know what you want to say in a video, it might be, here's how to set up a podcast studio, and you really want to provide content about that topic and you get excited about it, then great, I'm sure it's going to be very valuable, but nobody's going to pay attention unless you present it in the right way.
Right.
So if you said, I wish somebody would have told me this before starting my podcast studio, then we've opened up a different kind of loop. It's not, here's what I want to say, it's here's what you might not know if you don't carry on watching the video.
Yeah.
So we're able to take a concept, take a framework and position it in the right way. Another one might be, you know, isn't it annoying when this happens? Like everybody watching videos on Instagram or YouTube wants to know what you're about to say.
Yeah.
So it's these on-ramps, it's these conversational hooks that sometimes you can put at the start of a video in order to frame the bigger conversation. The other thing that people quite often do, which is a mistake as to why they don't get views, is because the algorithm will show the videos to people on a small batch first. And if people scroll away, they won't show it to a larger proportion. They might show it to 200 people. And if they don't get the reaction that they want, they're not going to distribute it. They're not going to share it to the next 1,000 or 10,000.
Right.
Now, this happens because of what we call the punchline technique. So imagine that you are wanting to record a video about, the best way to set up your podcast studio.
Yeah.
And you say, here's the best way to set up a podcast studio. It's all about the lights. And then you talk about the lights, you talk about the lights, you talk about the key light and the fill light and all of the technicalities.
Yeah.
You've already given them the punchline after the first 5 seconds.
Right.
And then you go on to overly explain the punchline. A comedian would never do that. You'd never have a comedian that would overly explain the joke to tell you why it was funny, because there's no reason to listen. So what we like to do is imagine that we have the punchline at the end, which is the gift, which is the reward, which is the value. You want to build up to that point within your videos, especially with short form video. Like, I looked terrible on camera for years and nobody listened to my podcast, and it was getting to me, really, really getting to me. It was only this one thing that I realized when I figured it out, it solved everything, and my views of my podcast went through the roof, and it's this. So we've taken people on a journey. We've said, these are the stakes that you might need to be aware of before starting a podcast. It's only at the end of the video that you say, that's the punchline. That's what you're here for. It's the value. Quite often when we look and we critique people's channels and we review their content, which we do every single week, we're seeing people deliver that punchline within the first 5 seconds, and then they waffle on for the next 90 seconds talking about it, but the algorithm doesn't see that as value, even though the viewer did, so they won't distribute it. So the goal is to add that curiosity gap, have that open loop, have that conversational style, and then really ramp up the stakes. We call this the rickety bridge. So imagine for a second that you're creating a video, and the punchline's at the end, like the destination of a bridge is at the end, and you've got to pass the bridge. What we need to do is talk about the fact that, okay, there's ups and downs of you not understanding the value here.
Right.
So like a rickety bridge, there's gaps, there's potential dangers, there's ups, there's downs. So when it comes to you telling a story on video, and even if you're just going to pull out your iPhone and start communicating it, just be aware that the destination is the end, and that's that punchline. When it comes to telling a story, we want to take people on that journey, and we want to say that there's, if you don't get this right, your foot might go through the bridge, or if you get this wrong, you're going to spend too much time buying expensive gear for when it's this one thing at the end that you want, and I know you want because you're watching this video, and then once you've delivered it, that's the end of it. That's the end of the bridge, and you've passed all of the dodginess of the bridge. So one of the reasons that people don't see content is because they don't have a comfortable on-ramp that makes sense to most people, which is, there's this one thing that just wound me up the other day. And then there's the ups and downs and the conversation that says, I really wish I'd have solved this sooner, because you're constantly being like, what are they going to say? What are they going to say?
Right.
And then when you deliver it, and then you end the video. If you carry on talking and you carry on communicating what that big reward is, nobody has to watch. Like, the comedian doesn't have to carry on explaining the joke.
Right, which then helps the whole or most of the video be viewed, and that's what the algorithm considers there's value in here. And
exactly. There's no way that if you have a 90% retention on a video that Instagram aren't going to say, oh, let's not show this to anyone else. They want you to watch the whole video. They want you to watch as much of it as possible. This is why people try to game the system by having a 7-second clip, because they know that most people are going to watch the whole clip.
It's
just that that's not the best way to deliver value.
Yeah.
So get people to watch your videos, get them to watch the long form versions, get them to join your lead magnet, get them to buy from you. It all stems from that original goal, and then we figure out what works piece by piece based on the business.
Yeah, this is fascinating. So the length of view of the short form piece, does that trump likes, comments on it. So say, because I know I've done it, like you might watch something, you're like, oh, this is really interesting, but then you go on to the next thing and you haven't particularly, you might not have liked it, you might not have commented, you've just watched it like, oh yeah, fair enough, that's cool, isn't it? So is that still like number one over somebody feeling compelled to do something with the content?
Yeah, I think saves and shares are a really good indication of how many people are actually engaging with the content, and that's what social media platforms look at more than anything else.
Yeah.
Followers don't matter as much these days. They matter such a small amount compared to 5 years ago. It's all about, can I get someone to watch this video? Longer videos are performing pretty well as well, like even 3-minute Instagram reels when we think people have got short attention spans, providing that you've got that open loop and that destination. You're not going to stop halfway, across the bridge if you've not got your answer. So you can get away with extending the content, providing you understand the rules. You don't have to have a 7-second video with tens of thousands of views and loads of likes and comments. If you understand what your business needs to do in order to build up trust, build up momentum, see what lead magnets, it all stems from what you would want to do as a business owner. And likes and comments generally don't pay the bills. Whereas when you start getting people sharing and bookmarking it and coming back to it later, that is a trust building mechanism. Liking is simple, which is why it doesn't matter as much.
I get it. And this is probably a simple, well, maybe a basic question, but just to help anybody that's thinking, but I don't understand how I bridge someone from like watching my stuff and thinking, oh, I like what Martin's talking about. It's probably quite a wide gap to go, I like what Martin's talking about, I'm going to buy their thing. Just if somebody's would like some ideas or inspiration on how do I kind of lead them across what things are scoring most highly and people will give their email address for, or, is it like downloads? Is it a longer webinar? Is there something that's kind of doing really well at the moment?
Yeah, there's typically, if we're talking about leads and we're talking about getting someone from consuming your content to become a potential customer, then there's 3 things that are working the best, at least that we can see. And it all comes down to video, which we know. But there's 3 platforms, especially in the B2B space, that work well. One of them is LinkedIn, and we do something across our client's account, which we call the Everyday CTA. Now, an Everyday CTA means that every single time that you post on that platform, you're giving people the option to take the next step. Now, people take issue with this because they say, I don't want to be just constantly bombarding people with a lead magnet. But we do it in a way where we share 70% value and 30% is like P.S. If you want to work with us, or you want to grow your business or you want to get fit and healthy, click the link and, you can join our upcoming webinar. So it gives you the freedom to share value every single day because you've got 70% of the posts on LinkedIn to do that. And then you have a little footer or FYI. If you want to sign up to my upcoming web class to learn how to grow your personal brand, click the link. And that works like an absolute charm. Every single day you can post value. People come to receive that value. That's the daily rhythm. And then the leads come off the back of it. So that's one channel. We also love YouTube, and YouTube's always going to be high performing because people go to consume video. What we shifted to quite rapidly after we saw the success was verbally saying inside of the video, if you want to grow your business, if you want to get fit and healthy, if you want to come up with great content ideas, click the link in the description. It's going to take you to this page. You're going to be able to opt in and you're going to get tons of value from it. It's free. Go and check it out. And that works remarkably well, and he always has done. So when you pour the fuel on the fire and you have shorts sending people to the long form, and the long form to the lead magnet, then it's a repeatable pattern that you can just keep ramping up. And then the third thing that we're noticing do remarkably well at the minute is Instagram. And again, this can work for B2C as well as B2B. But what we're doing is we're posting daily stories on our clients' profiles, and we're able to include a link in a story. You can't in a post. So Instagram give you the opportunity to share value, share stories, share a day in your life on your stories, but include a link that says, oh, by the way, I'm hosting a webinar next week, or access my 66 viral hooks. Click the link. So that's a very, very effective way to get somebody from Instagram if they've consumed your content. And again, that's mostly video content because video builds trust and it's connection.
Yeah.
And also ManyChat as well. So ManyChat is another simple automation you can set up. It means that if you share a reel or a video and you just take that little clip that says if you want to get viral content, then, comment the word viral, and I'll send you through automation a link to my 66 viral hooks that we've created. And you've got those, there's a few ways like that we are ramping up and we're seeing work very well. Other platforms don't perform as well if you include a link.
Yeah.
Some platforms don't tend to care. And, you have to be prepared to adapt. If LinkedIn one day say you're not allowed to include links, we'd have to adapt.
Yeah.
But that's why you don't put all your eggs in one basket and you have that rhythm of repurposing content across multiple platforms, because you can always make a shift.
Yeah.
And it's the only way that we can create any kind of predictability. We test what works, we put out enough content, and then we can constantly keep testing and keep going from there.
Yeah. Martin, this is absolutely brilliant. We are hurtling towards the end of our time together. So I want to get onto the stuff that can help people, because there is a piece of software now that you've created that all of this gold that you've just talked about, basically, anybody that's thinking, yeah, that's great, Martin, but I don't have a videographer, I don't have a content team, I don't have all the time in the world. You and Daniel have come together to create a piece of software which I've just started using and I'm loving it. It's called Vidonary.
Yes.
Can you just tell us a little bit about this, Martin? What it does, how it helps?
Absolutely. So the reason we even came up with the idea originally was because it's quite expensive to hire a team like Jammy to come out, thousands of pounds a month to hire a team to plan, record, edit, and then publish. There's a big operation there. So we thought to ourselves around this time last year, would it theoretically be possible to have some software to help with this, especially because it is expensive to hire a team? Could I do it myself? Well, I know that I can plan content myself if I wanted to with ChatGPT or Claude. Could I record it myself? Well, there's some websites that allow you to record videos and you could do it from your iPhone. Then, is there a software out there that edits videos? Well, yeah, there's plenty of those. And what about publishing? Yeah, there's tons of social media scheduling tools, but there was never one tool that connected all four things, which is planning, recording, editing, and publishing. So we'd pieced together kind of a prototype of this around June last year. And I sat with Daniel after a video shoot and I said, what do you think of this? And I didn't say anything. And he was like, wait, is this thing that we're talking about? I was like, just see what you think. And it was as clear as day. Plan, record, edit, and publish is the four things that people struggle with. When it comes to putting out content, you struggle with planning, you don't know what to say. You're struggling with recording, should I use my iPhone? Do I need the right lights?
Yeah.
Editing, it takes too long and there's too many options. And then publishing, how do I do it in a way that gets leads and sales?
Yeah.
How do I do it that gets views? So we just took those four things, packaged them together, and then we launched a wait list to see if anybody else was crazy enough to think this was a good idea. And within the first week, we had 4,500 people on a wait list for it. It was obscene. And that ended up being closer to 6,000. But within that short space of time, people were very much interested in this. And when I say interested, my inbox was just completely filled with people wanting to be beta testers and wanted to test it. But we'd only built a prototype at that time. So once we got that feedback, we decided to then go out and raise some money to actually have this built. Even though AI is phenomenal and you can create loads of crazy stuff with Claude Code and Replit and all these other tools like Lovable, it's not enough to create a tool that people can rely on. At least it wasn't 12 months ago. It's getting better and better all along. So we needed to raise some money. It's the easiest thing in the world if you have to raise money when you've got 4,500 people. If ever anybody's on this session or you're watching back or listening and you think, how do I raise money? Just create a wait list of 4,500 people and people will be throwing money at you. That's exactly what happened. So we were able to get it funded and we raised, £400,000 initially to get this product built. And then we launched it in February. Now, we launched it off the back of the wait list and we're able to get it funded from our amazing angel investors. But the most obvious sign of success came when we opened the doors and we had 1,000 spaces go in the first 3 days.
Wow.
We only opened it for 1,000.
They all went.
They all went within 3 days. And as it happened, I had a video shoot with Daniel on the Friday of that week and we closed the doors the day before. and we got cake, and we were amazing to see all of this success. So yes, the problems that Daniel had, and the fact that he wasn't being consistent, he wasn't putting out enough ideas, he wasn't able to put out at the scale he needed to be, meant that led us to the point where we created Vidonary and created this software that we're able to match what we did in person for a fraction of the price, but people can do it from their own home. So now you can do all those 4 things: plan, record, edit, and publish. And we've just seen some phenomenal success. I think in the first 6 weeks, we ran a challenge and we had 879 videos published by our members in that short window of time.
Wow.
These were people that struggled to come up with video ideas, but also struggled to present on camera.
Yeah.
And we were able to put a tool in front of them. And again, it's a new tool. It's not perfect. We're constantly making improvements. But even though that's the case, 879 videos were published by our members in a short space of time. And since then, we've opened the doors a couple of times, and we've continuously drove hundreds and hundreds of sales ever since. And now, thankfully, we're finally open, which is a relief.
Amazing. So you can join Vidonary now
Exactly.
at any time. And just to be clear, it's Vidonary, so it's Vidonary.
Yes, yeah.
How exciting. Like this, gosh.
I'm tired, I can tell you that.
You need a break this summer. Yeah, I think for me, like, we've just gotten started with Vidonary, but this whole, like, the planning piece, I think, like, because I know that I've got lots of stuff to say, but when it comes to what am I going to say,
Yes.
then your mind draws a blank and you're like, well, yeah, I'm not sure actually.
Yeah, and that's quite often the first thing that people run up against when coming up with video ideas and recording. They don't even get to the recording and the editing.
Yeah.
They struggle with the ideas. So that was an important element. And obviously, when we're planning videos for clients, we have our own frameworks and structures. You've got to include this if you want the video to be successful. We've discussed a few of those strategies on this session, but there's tons. I mean, how does a short form video differ from a long form video? Do I have to position things differently? We've just built all of that into the app so that we don't have to, you don't have to think, essentially.
Yeah.
And the best thing in the world, though, is that we still understand that you, as the business owner, is the value, and your experience and your stories. That's the thing that's going to make the business success. We just put together a tool that makes it simple.
Yeah.
But your insights, your experience, and your stories, that's what you can put into Vidonary. So we have a knowledge base that someone can upload all of their context and their books and their reports.
Oh, wow.
And then you can generate ideas off the back of that.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah. I think there's a question that pops up all the time, which is, well, surely I can just create an AI avatar and I can just tap into AI and have that produce content for me. And a lot of people are doing that. But I don't know how many leads and sales are going to come in off the back of you just making a fictitious version of yourself and having that out on YouTube. The social media platforms are cracking down on it. It has value, there's no doubt about it, but it should come from you originally. You're the person that has the big vision, the mission, the values. You're the person that people buy into. They can connect with you. They will pay you money versus your competitor, because how you bring yourself and your attitude and how convinced you are that what you are saying on video matters and why it matters. So when you come from a place of serving first, and for us that's with video, everything else, every other area of your business will perform. It might be a slight lag from when you start putting out content to the results that you see, but you're only going to see positive results.
I totally get it. And I think in a way it's a very exciting time to be doing video, because also there is so much crappy content out there, isn't there? Like you can immediately tell the AI text, the words, the phrases that are being used, quietly this, but here's the honest truth, the 3 bullet points, the emojis. In a way, it's almost like, for anybody that does go, I'm just going to get on camera, I'm going to get over myself, it's almost like a more exciting time, isn't it? Because you're going to stand out so much more than all of this.
Oh, it's so much easier.
That's out there.
You just got to be truthful, you got to be honest, you've got to show your vulnerability, and if you can do all of that, something AI can never do.
Yeah, totally. Honestly, Martin, today has been an absolute masterclass
thank you.
Creating, prepping, producing, how to plan content. I don't know if you can tell, but some of these questions I've been asking have been personal questions that I would also like to know myself. So can't wait to get back into the office and re-listen to this. Where can people find you, Martin, if they'd like to know more about Vidonary, your services, Jammy?
They can go to vidonary.com, which is vidonary.com. And yeah, follow me on LinkedIn, Martin Huntbach, and we put out a lot of content there and lots of cool stuff. So yeah, best place.
Thank you so much, Martin. That has been phenomenal.
You're very welcome.